LoreWarrior Armour. Gladius medium hover tank. Overview. Bandit kings have always prized hovercraft for those vehicles' excellent hit-and-run capabilities and their affordability. Seeking a more flexible alternative to the venerable Saladin assault hover tank, Imperator Marius O'Reilly of the Periphery's Marian Hegemony commissioned the Gladius in 3042. All of the new hover tank's components were manufactured on the Marian capital of Alphard, with the exception of the tank's main armament. In a groundbreaking trade agreement, the Hegemony acquired a supply of the Pontiac 50 autocannon from the Taurian Concordat in exchange for 25% of the tanks equipped with the weapon. By the time Caesar Sean O'Reilly, Marius' son, assumed control of the Hegemony, the Marian legions were armed with more than 100 of these quick and effective new vehicles. Protector Thomas Calderon of the Concordat was pleased with his end of the deal as well, and stationed his Gladius units along the Federated Commonwealth border, in anticipation of an attack by that realm. The Commonwealth attack never materialised, but Gladius units did prove instrumental in the Hegemony's conquest of the Lovian League. Capabilities. Named for the sword of the Roman legions, the Gladius is a simple but effective machine. Constructed of readily available components and time-tested electronics, the tank rarely breaks down and is easy to repair. Though the Gladius isn't notably fast, it is capable of executing high-speed flanking maneuvers over difficult terrain and over water. With 3 times more armour than the Saladin, the Gladius can take a significant amount of punishment, especially to the front. The only apparent flaw in this otherwise excellent vehicle design is the Gladius's lack of a weapon turret. The Pontiac 50's range and power make it a good choice for a one-gun tank, but without a turret, the autocannon can fire only at targets directly in front of the hover tank. Generally, the hover tank's impressive mobility enables crews to target enemies effectively despite the drawback, but more than one retreating Gladius crew have died because of their inability to fire and discourage pursuers. The Gladius's fixed cannon configuration does offer some advantages, however. The cannon is mounted deep within the interior of the tank's chassis, protecting it from battle damage, and the weight savings provided by the turretless design enables the Gladius to carry a generous amount of heavy armour. Deployment. Gladius units are stationed only in the Hegemony and the Concordat. Currently, the Hegemony fields only about half as many Gladiuses as the Concordat, an imbalance created by their losses during the Lovian campaign. As soon as Geoffrey Calderon cut off Taurian relations with the Hegemony, manufacture of the Gladius would grind to a halt, and until a suitable replacement for the Pontiac 50 can be found, no new units will be produced. Right, so we're going to get the bugbear out of the way first. Yes, over here in little quaint England, as some will say over in the States, it's hegemony, it's hegemony. No. In the States it said hegemony, in Canada it said hegemony, over here it said hegemony. You can look it up, and you know what? Both are fine. I've not read anything where there's any of these tit-for-tat arguments. So don't, before you type it, before you try to correct me, before you try to correct someone who comes from the country where the language originated, it's hegemony. And trust me, it's a fucking Greek word, and even in English, we're probably saying it wrong. So, you know, the Greeks can look at all of us and say, you're fucking wrong. So just get out of the way. Just get out your system. Okay? So it's literally tomato. It's that old one, okay? So just leave it. The number of times I've had to have this discussion in comments is just ridiculous. This is people so fucking, you know, you don't see people turning up all the time saying, oh, I think you'll find, like they're all fucking experts at language. Right, so the Gladius, mass 40 ton, movement type, hover, power plant, Omni 145 ICE engine, cruise speed of 86 kph, flank speed of 130 kph, armour, Marian Arms standard. The armament is a single Pontiac 50 autocannon manufactured by Marian Arms Incorporated, my primary factory on Alphard. Communication system is the Garrett T10B, as targeting and tracking is the OP911. But what does all this translate to? Well, being it's a 40-ton vehicle, it can move 8 in cruise, 12 on flank, which is, yeah, decent, but not brilliant for a 40-ton hover vehicle. There are examples that are much quicker. But here's the upshot. It does have a pretty generous amount of armour, as it says. The front alone has 30 points, both sides have 24, and even the rear's got 18, so a pretty fair amount of resistance there. It's got the single AC-10 mounted in the front, and it has enough ammo for 20 rounds of firing, so not too bad actually. It comes out of the battle value of about 378, which isn't a huge cost. It means you can field a good number of these vehicles in a couple of lances at least. And an AC-10 on a hover vehicle that moves 8 and 12, it's fairly decent. Quite a nasty vehicle. Most mechs definitely don't want to go up against the lance of these things, not unless they've got some long-range support or the ability to close with the vehicles quickly so they can basically stomp them and do some extra damage. Other than that, though, the Gladius is pretty straightforward, but I do love the fact that this is a Periphery built machine. This isn't the thing that has been bought in as old stock by the Periphery state and that, and it's the fact that it's the Marians, which is a very rarely written faction. Not much really goes on with them. As it mentions, there's the Lothian League that they invade, and I think later on they take on the Illyrian Palatinate, and they expand their power base a little bit. And a lot of the writing with the Periphery just largely gets skimmed over, but it's always the same kind of thing, so it was nice that they actually did something with the Marians. I like the fact that they have, their own plans. They expand, they take new territory, they're making themselves a bigger force on the galactic stage. Whereas factions like the Canopians, though they do get involved in certain conflicts, allying with the forces of Marek briefly, that kind of thing, or being part of a trifecta of factions all working together to for some kind of benefit against the Federated Suns. There's not really a lot that happens with the Magistracy. And then the Taurians, obviously, there's always the tit for tat. Oh, they're going to invade us. They never invade us. They never really pulled the trigger on that thing, and they never really do much else beyond that, which is kind of sad. I know there's a brief conflict between the Taurians and the Magistracy, but there's not really ever been a book written about it or any of these kind of conflicts. The Outworlds Alliance, virtually nothing happens with them. They're basically just space farmers and little else. Other than later on they just go, a Snow Raven turn up and set up a base there. And the Cercinus Confederation, a large, basically pirate faction that no one seems to really go, should we really let a bunch of pirates just exist on the border? Yeah, why not? It's a bit strange. There's lots of little write-up opportunities there that could be expanded on in the history. You could have these Periphery states warring with each other occasionally, making alliances, forming new factions, those kind of things, but yeah, it very rarely happens. So it's nice when stuff like this is written, and there are these units that are built specifically by these minor states. So it's really nice, it's cool, and it gives them a little bit more flavour, a little bit more character. So yeah, it's cool, and I like the design for the vehicle as well. It looks pretty functional. There's not much styling to it. It's a block with a gun in the middle, and that's kind of it. That's all it needs to be. Keep the cost down, which makes perfect sense. There's none of this kind of flair or sort of extra design that has gone into it. It's literally just very functional, does what it needs to, and that's it. So yeah, that's cool. But that's the Gladius medium hover tank, and a little rant from me. But until then, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening, as always, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.